actually record as well. All right, so I'm screen sharing and I'm recording. So last time we created a very simple button game. And what we did was we counted the number of times that the A button was pressed. And then maybe, hopefully, what you did by the end of class was you modded your code so that you also counted how many times the B button was pressed. And we added a few things where we had our sprites tell us what the score was and everything. But how did we do that? What did we have to set up in order to hold the information of the button presses? What do we have to set up? Something called a variable, right? So our variable is a container that holds information. And for now, the information is simply just numbers, right? Now, in order to know when to change, we also set up, well, two things in this case. We set up something so that it would tell the variable to change. And in this case, it was change the count A or count B button to go up by 1. What is that thing called? That on A or on B pressed? What is it? It's waiting for something to happen, or I have a hint here. Listening for something to happen. Okay, so the on A pressed or the on B pressed, those are both called event listeners. Okay, so we can do things like the variable can change either way. It can go up or it could go down, right? So we could say, let's say that instead of it being, how many times can the button A be pressed, we could say also, well, if button A press changes count A by 1, then we can also say instead button B, instead of counting button B, it might make button A go down by 1, right? So now you really have a versus. It's like, okay, if I press the A, whoops, if I say on start, I press A, nothing's happening. Press this, okay. If I press A, it should be count. Oh, you know why? Why isn't this happening? Why is nothing happening here? Or why can't I tell that the score is changing? Why not, Mammon? I have to make the sprite say it. Okay, so I'm going to say make sprite, my sprite say count A button. And then right now, I'm going to do the same thing and have my sprite say count A button as well. So if A is pressed, my sprite is counting up, and if B is pressed, right now my sprite is counting down. Okay, so I can even go down to negative. Okay, so other things that you could do is, let's change this back. We're going to make it so that what is it? This is the count B button, and we're going to say B sprite, okay, is saying count B button. What if in the end, right? If there's an end, is there an end right now? Is there an end right now? Oops, that's not what I want. Count B to be 1. Okay. Is there an end? We could play this game forever, right? Interestingly, one of the kids in one of the other periods, or 2 kids, they were like, wait a minute, I'm going to time you, right? So what if we had a timer? Okay. So let's add a timer in here. If you go to info, okay, so info are just things, these are actually all presets, and we'll see that a little bit later. There is, if you scroll down, there is a countdown timer, which some of you have discovered in making some of the games. So let's go ahead and set a countdown timer. We'll put that at the very end of on start. And this will count down for 10 seconds. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to say, all right, count A, count B for 10 seconds. Bless you. Okay, so now after 10 seconds, the countdown timer goes and then it ends the game. So is that kind of fun yet? Not really. No. Okay, what might you want to do here to make it a little more fun or more logical? Like what would make sense? So we have A counting all of the A, or we're counting all of the A's, we're counting all of the B's, and now we have a timer. So you can't play forever. You can only play for 10 seconds. What would make it more interesting? Where's the challenge? Where's the challenge? Sam. You might try to beat the other character. Awesome. So what we need to do here is we need to do a comparison. Okay. So that is going to be with logic. And we also need to say when we want this to happen. Okay. So let's go back to info. And then what we're going to say is on countdown end. Okay. So when the 10 seconds are up, before you go dun 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 dun, we want to compare what which one is greater. Okay, so we're going to go to logic, and you'll see that there are some comparison blocks, right? So they're the ones that look like they're pointy on the ends. We're going to grab this any of them, one of those comparison blocks. And what we want to do too is we will also want to grab an if true. If true, oh, we're going to do a few things. Okay, let's do if true and snap that in on countdown end. Okay, so what we're doing is when the countdown ends, we're going to compare two values. And if it's true, we want something to happen. So this is called a conditional. Okay, and you as well, we as people, okay, you especially as children of grown-ups, are faced with conditionals every day. Okay, if this happens, then this will happen. Can you give an example of a conditional that happens in your everyday for real life? I can think of many, many, many right now. Will Bisson's like, awesome. If you don't do your chores, you get in trouble. If you do your chores, then you get to watch TV. If you are nice to your siblings, you can have access to your phone. If you pick up your socks, I won't nag you, right? Things like that. Man, it's like nobody ever says things like that to me. No, you just do everything. Not that I know the sock I was making it up a little bit. Okay. Oh no, I wasn't. No. Because it's not me saying I won't nag you. I'm just like, pick up your socks, pick up your socks, pick up your socks. And then if they're picked up, I get to stop, right? So maybe you're better about picking up your socks. Okay, so anyway, a conditional tests to see if something is true or false. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to snap this in here, the equals, we're comparing, and we're going to grab some variables, okay? So what we're checking is if count A button, the variable, and we're going to snap that into the first 0. Now, what you'll notice is that you can snap it into a few different places. Make sure it's in the pill-shaped one, okay? If count A button, and we're going to change the equals to is greater than, what are we looking to see if it's greater than? Well, count B button, okay? So count B button, then what? So if count A is bigger than count B, what do we want to happen? Maybe we'll have a sprite say something, right? We'll just say, I win, okay? So let's go to sprites. Let's go to effects. And then we're gonna go to we're gonna pull my sprite say. Yep, my sprite say, and that's the first one. And this sprite will say, I win, okay? So let's test this, okay? Let's make sure that A button has more than B button. Okay, we have 10 seconds to figure that out. Okay, if A is more than B. Ooh, did yours work? Ten seconds, 10 seconds. Oh, look at that, hundreds and hundreds of A presses. That's a long 10 seconds. Sam, did you make yours for 200 seconds? No? Oh, maybe just hit refresh. Hit refresh. I don't think the timer really started. And then also if you go right by 10, it will go right by 10. It'll keep counting. Did it work? Yay! Okay, awesome. So now what if B is bigger, right? So right now B Oh, let's try that again. Let's do refresh and let's see what happens if B is bigger. And actually, you know what? I like to, for this, I mean, maybe the game will ultimately be 10 seconds, but I can't wait 10 seconds every time. So I'm going to change this to 3 seconds for the countdown for now. So I don't have to wait 10 seconds every time. All right. So now I want my B to be bigger. Okay. Oh, so here's the thing. This is what happened with Sam. If you go past the counter, if you go past 3, oh, nothing happens. Actually, nothing happens. Okay. So we need to do a conditional for if B is bigger. Okay. So you see how there's a plus sign under the if in that if bracket? Let's go ahead and click on that. And that gives us an else. Okay. So it gives us another place. Oh, wait, one more. And we need 2 actually. Okay. Else if, so now we need to compare if B button is bigger than the A button. Okay. So let's go back to logic. Let's go to the comparison section. Let's grab that bracket and put that in here. And this time what we're going to say is if count B under variables, count B is greater than count A, whoops, variables, then we'll have the other sprite say, I win. Okay, so that's got to be B sprite. Okay, so let's test this one out. Okay, oops, got it. 3 seconds, not a lot. I win. So did that work for everybody? Yes? Okay, awesome. See, I always like, and this is just like my way of doing things. I'll add something and then I'll test it before I add tons of things and not know where the thing went wrong. Okay, and it's easier to debug if you just do it. So now here's the last, what's the last condition? So we know that if A has more, we want A to say I win. If B has more, we want the other sprite to say I win. What's another possibility for the scores? Abe's like, I know. What do you think, Abe? What if it's tied? Okay, so one more. So that would be the last condition. For this one, we don't have to say if it's tied. So here it's checking. If A is greater than B, say this. If B is greater than A, say this. And if that's the last condition, then just say this. We'll have this one say, it's tied, we tied. Okay, so I'm going to test this. I'm not going to press any buttons for 3 seconds. And there it is. We tied. Okay, so you can compare a lot of things. Okay, it could be A versus B. It could be if. You could even say if A button is, let's say we want to get to 15, right? If A button is bigger than 15, then you're the big winner. So you can change these conditionals or what happens afterwards to be anything that you want. Okay, so you can even check this out. I kind of like this, but I'm not sure. You can even like, so think about this. Think about a game where maybe you get up to, you collect, you do, let's say 5 button presses and something happens after 5, like you get a bonus. Okay, this is how the computer checks for those things, is using a variable and collecting them. Okay, I'm just trying to be conscientious of the time because I do not know. Thank you, Samir, for submitting those things that way. All right. Okay, cool. So now that you know this, let's go ahead and modify this. So what could you do with this, like knowing now conditionals and being able to compare two things? Using, well, you've used sprite say before. How could you mod your game or add a narrative that would make this a little more interesting? So A versus B. beyond A versus B. Somebody the other day made something very cool. So think about things that you like to do, right? Where might you say, oh, something more, yeah, something has more than something else. So that takes a little bit of creativity and stretching and all. Okay, might you, and again, you can add a background, you can, you could have lots of things happen. Lots of things happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this time to mod this code. Okay, and then also think, remember too, what else is a good practice when it comes to writing code? Okay, right clicking and adding comments. This is what this does, right? If you want to refer to this again in the future, it will help. Okay, so on countdown end, this is saying comparing this block that compares count A to count B, and the sprites announce the winner. Or a tie. Whoops. Okay, you could also, if it doesn't make sense, maybe it does. Remember, you can hide your comments. You might also say, you know what? I don't want the sprite to say we tied. What I want to do is maybe have, there are splash screens. Yeah, we could say splash. This is a tie. A and B tied. Okay, so what is a versus? So I did earlier. What? No, yes. Oh my gosh, it's not yesterday. It was Friday. Bless you. The sprites made me think of cats versus dogs, right? Show your love for cats or dogs by pressing the A or B button. Cats win, dogs win. It's a tie. Everybody loves cats and dogs. No, this class, period 1, loves budgies. Right? Right, Sid and Abayan? Loves little birds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, I think, or pause the recording.